be getting that product, that feedback, those surveys, figuring out what people want, and I'm guessing too, you can really train that model. You can train that AI model in the beginning stages while people are web, and so then apply it to the hardwares. It's not that the hardware is revolutionary. It's kind of, I'm guessing what you're building that's revolutionary is instead of having a chat AI bot, Chat GPT, where it kind of just talks to you in general statements, it's going to bring an emotional aspect to it where it's, I'm guessing, just really thoughtful. Explain to me how it works. So let's say emotionally in a bad place, and I'm like, hey, I just want to talk to you about this. What kind of feedback response am I going to get from this prompt, this AI?
Okay, that's a really good question. So when you mentioned about ChatGPT, ChatGPT is very generic. No matter how many times you tell it, hey, I'm going through something right now, it's going to tell you a whole lot of responses. Whilst I'm not saying it's bad or anything like that, it's great, it's amazing. Frankly, what we want to do is we want to save people's time and we want to save people's efforts with actual advice that they need and filtering out sort of the jargon that is not needed for people. So say if, for example, you preferred meditation when it came to a stress situation,
Mm-hmm.
that works for you. But for me, if I prefer to, have a sort of talking system with a piece of technology,
Yeah.
that works for me. In that case, meditation does not work for me. The thing with GPT is it will mention all of that. So say
Right.
meditation, talking to someone, talking to this. Like I don't have
It's
the
not
time to test.
personalized. It's not personalized to the user.
Exactly. And that is sort of like the word that I come to. That personalized factor is one of the biggest strengths that we're going to be having with this product. So you asked the way it works. And very simply, let me give you a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
Say Alex one day decided to come home from school, just a young person, decided to come and talk to early model one to open up his computer and literally just started communication. And this is voice-based communication. So you can literally just speak to the system and the system responds back with the voice. And so let's say he asks, okay, today I'm feeling stressful because I spoke to my parents about my goals and they didn't respect me about it.
Hmm.
And so what the early model one does is it'll first, if it doesn't have enough information to provide advice, or if Alex doesn't ask for advice at the moment, it will ask another question, a follow-up question. So it will be like, okay, in that sort of sense, why does your parents make you feel this way? Do they not understand where you're coming from? And so Alex may say, okay, maybe because I'm young and they think, I'm just too young for my age.
Yeah.
And then the system will then further ask and say, do you have anyone else in the circle of trust that you may have that you can speak to about this and they can communicate that with your parents? And
Yeah.
so forth and so forth. You'll ask questions until it gets to the point where I can recommend a strategy. So it will say, so basically, Alex says his uncle is best to speak to. And so what the system does is it will say, okay, Alex, why don't you go have a 2-minute conversation with your uncle about how you feel because he respects you, he understands you, and see how your uncle can potentially be a third party
Yeah.
to your parents and yourself. The point being that this advice is not sort of biased. So it's not like towards Alex's side or
But
no, it's to the parent.
let me
Sorry.
ask you. But see, this is I get that, and but this is where I kind of look at the realism. Do you think though, like if the parents are probably the ones purchasing this for the kid, don't you think they're going to kind of want to say in this scenario? And I know everything's like when you're your own individual adult, it's a little different. But in this scenario, just because you throw it out, I'm just curious. Would like the parents buying this, would they have input to say on kind of how they want the answers to be tailored? Because I feel like as a parent, they might want to tailor it to where your parents love you. You know what I'm saying? If they're buying it for the kid,
Yeah,
they don't want the thing to turn against Alex and his parents. You know?
yeah, yeah. So you're basically asking if there's bias from another party and
That's
that could
right.
be an influencing factor. So no, there will be no bias incorporated into the system. So that
Okay.
like there'll be like parental controls or like, people controlling the system, limiting it to what it can do.
Sure.
It's the system will be completely open. And what I mean by providing advice is that it will be providing advice in the mindset of two parties, let's say parents and young guy, put together, but a fair solution in between. Hence why I gave the route of speaking to a third party rather than saying, right, you don't talk to your parents anymore. That's obviously not a very reliable advice
Sure.
to give
Right.
someone because that favors one party. And that's actually a really good point that you made. And what I want to do with the product is that it's going to give that sort of central advice that the user needs that can potentially help them in their situation, but not inflicting damage into potential relationships that could be
Right.
involved with the situation. And so that is just one point I wanted to get across. And so, like, basically, the whole feature behind it is, let's say that is day one. All right. So let's say we take that situation and we say Alex is using this the first day ever. And let's say day seven. Now let's go to day seven. Now
Hmm.
Alex continuously uses the system and he gives feedback. So he says, okay, this worked, this did not work, this worked, this did not work, and so forth and so forth.
Yeah.
But the point is, what it'll do is when it comes back to that personalized communication, is let's say now there's a distressful situation. Say something picked up from
Hmm.
the last time they met.
Right.
Parents are getting crazy about it. Alex is like, getting really terrified, really scared, and got no one to go to. Comes to the technology and says, hey, this is what happened today. Feeling very, very distressed. This happened. I'm going to do something life threatening to myself.
Hmm.
Sorry, to Alex. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
would say so. In that perspective, then what it will do is now that it has feedback in terms of why it worked and didn't work, so it will recommend basically a tailored strategy. So it'll
Hmm.
be like, okay, Alex, I understand there's something life threatening going on and you're trying to commit to that, but I would not recommend you to do so. Instead, why don't you try go and speak to a person that
Yeah.
could be your uncle, or maybe if that didn't work, why don't you go and try this out? Why don't we try a relaxation activity that you said
Yeah.
worked for you pretty well?
I
And so,
like
yeah, sorry.
I really like the idea of referring back to another human because I think that the one thing people be concerned is, well, I don't want it to replace the human, but again, what it's not, it's you're using it as a tool where if it's there's no one there, then they can obviously do that. If not, then it's a tool to refer to an actual trusted loved one. I like that a lot. I like it as a tool. The full self-reliant thing is something I think adoption over time could be really useful. I think, but in the short term, getting people to just say, "Hey, listen, we're not trying to replace your parents, but we're trying to use this as a way to help your kid talk through things and talk through his emotions." And I think that pitch is a way smoother one too, especially now, early.
Exactly. And because it's very common for people to get confused between the whole perspective of is it an AI
Right,
therapist or
of
is it
course.
just something that's there to support you? To clarify on that, no, it's not an AI therapist because, but frankly, I think it's dangerous to have an AI therapist running around
Yeah,
because because the whole point of AI is that AI can make mistakes, but it doesn't understand it's making a mistake.
sure.
It only
That's a great
understands
point.
one thing, and that's logic. It
Yeah,
understands what it said and what it says back. That's all it knows. It doesn't understand morals. It doesn't
yep,
understand values. It doesn't understand the human factor. So what we're trying to do is we're just trying to like have that sort of communication between, let's say, a person and the machine, but not
yeah,
actually going out and diagnosing and telling
sure.
you do this now. This is your treatment. This is who you
Right.
go and speak to. This is the medical sort of treatment that you have to seek. No, no,
Yep.
no. We're not like that. We're more of the companionship metric. So we're
I like
taking
that.
that route.
Yeah, I like that. I like the idea of talking. I'm just thinking again. My opinion. I'm just talking through it, just trying to think in the marketplace how it would work. Yeah, just being able to talk to some, being able to talk, not give like a set diagnosis. I think is a very smart and safe play because again, parents with their kids or even just people in general, like they don't like to be told what to do. But if you go, listen, we're not trying to tell you what to do. We're trying to help you, guide you, give you these almost like resources to help you through this. I think that could be really interesting. I like that. I really do. I like that.
And
Um,
also, to
yeah.
me, like a lot of problems, some
Uh huh.
people, sometimes someone just needs a friend to talk to be honest.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people could just need some exercise to some motivation
Sure.
to like help their daily problems. Like, not everything has to be done with a medical diagnosis. It's
Yeah.
just that some people just need motivation. Some people just need that sort of willingness to go out and do something they love.
That's a
And within
great.
that
That's a great
perspective,
point, dude. I love that because I was watching. There's a podcast I really like called the Iced Coffee Hour, and they had this medical doc. It was a doctor on there, and he was talking about how what there's obviously medical issues, like people have depression, anxiety, and all that. But he says one thing I like to ask, my patients or whatever, my clients, I'm like, have you walked outside for 30 minutes today? Have you gone to the gym? Have you done all these things? If you've done all these things and you're still sad, medical for sure. And there's definitely tons of people who have that. But taking active steps to helping yourself out, helping that out, a lot of people might realize, oh shoot, like that's actually, I'm not going outside ever. I'm not, and people don't think about it. We just go, I want to take a pill, I want to feel better. And I think honestly, if you could encourage the AI tool to encourage the healthy habits, I mean, you could really help a ton of people out and just overall health. It'd be really cool.
Exactly. And that is sort of like the route that we're taking with sort of like, so we have a different board of advisors. So like I
Uh huh.
mentioned when we started off, was that we have the medical professionals and then we have the motivational speakers that come in as well. So they give their advice and their sort of voice into the model, and the model
Sure.
takes that and it almost like gives the user a sort of personality trait. So what side does
Hmm.
the user fall into? Do they want some motivation, or are they like in the serious end of a problem and maybe they might need some other sort of counseling
Right.
in that sense? And so that sort of distinction that it can do is that it can then say, right, maybe you just need some motivation. And here's
Yeah.
something that I found that you really liked in that essence. But then like another person will probably be more conventional and might have a much more of a deeper situation. And in that case, it can say, right, you may need to seek some professional help
Sure.
to help yourself with this problem that you may be having. And so yeah, that's I think the main thing I want to get across is that it's not like a therapist or anything with that in
Right.
that perspective. It's more in the realm of the companion that you can have, but it's a companion that gives sort of support and advice in the sense of like trying to help, you as a person sort of overcome those challenges. And the main goal is, sorry, I didn't actually get this point across. The main goal of it is for you as the person to gain confidence about yourself. And that's why in the second part of the little pitch I have is to gain confidence for the long run. And the point being is that I want people to, be confident about themselves pretty much.
Right.
And hence that falls into that embrace your unique traits.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I really like that aspect. When we first talked about it, I think when you taught me through it, I like it more and more each time because I think a lot of people think, oh, this is gonna be. It's not invasive. It's something that's companion. You're walking me through it. I like the goal, man, and you seem like a really good-hearted person, and I can tell you're very smart, and I like that you just leap, man. That's good. But hopefully we can get some steps in place right now to prepare you for you before you leap there. So talk to me through this. I see right here, trying to go through your deck. Give me some competition analysis. Is there anything like this in the market right now? Who are some of your competitors you're fighting? I see you have a little bit of a list, but just talk about them for me.
Yeah, sure. So basically, yeah. So I'd say the list that I have currently just needs a little bit of expansion to it. So
Sure.
yeah, there are competitions. There are chatbots out there. There's like AI chatbots, and then there's like sort of AI robot companions.
Uh
So
huh.
like this is a whole physical robot that you can buy, and it sort of like just sort of rolls up to you and smiles at you. So like a whole virtual screen with the robot. And I will say the competition has done a really good job in terms of like trying to address the issue. I feel where they fall down is the first sort of the thing that I mentioned way before was breaking the barrier between user and machine. To me, a lot of the competition still acts like a machine and still feels like a machine. And it comes back to sort of like one of my idols was like Steve Jobs, always talking about custom experience, user experience, and
Sure.
how the users
Absolutely.
feel when using it. So hence the iPhone pretty much. And so that's what I thought about was like, why is the user experience, just so not good? It's not there.
Yeah.
That sort of feel that I'm actually talking to someone that I can trust with. And that's the thing that I want to get across with this product is that, all right, can you trust this system? Is it something that you want to open up to? Because if we
Yeah.
can break that, there's no point even getting into the
That's
space
right.
in the first place. And so like with early Model 1, one thing that was really inspiration that I really found on the internet was that people like emojis pretty much. We send billions of emojis every day. And if you go on the website, the whole like sort of interface, the user experience will be you talking to a very fun and lively emoji that will react to you and sort of,
Mhm.
pretty much show facial expressions like an actual human would.
Yeah.
And so that to me is a lot of like the user experience. We're focusing a lot on the user experience more than the complexity of the advice and complexity of sort of the treatment that's out
Yeah,
there. A
how it
lot of
makes
the
someone
com
feel, right? How it makes them feel like after the conversation. I think that's super important because you're saying
exactly,
when the current competition, you still feel you don't really trust it. I think one thing that could really help early too is just be so open on how that data is stored. Especially like that data that's collected from the user, the personalization that comes along with it. Is it local to that hardware? Is there a data cloud that you are storing in? I think if people knew that it was maybe you weren't storing it, I think that could be a huge point too, because that's another thing. Trust. One of the reason they tell someone something and they open up is because they know it's not going to be shared or stored. So maybe something. I don't know where you are looking on the data privacy stuff, but let's skip around now to let's just go through market potential. I saw your slide on the market potential. Let me go to it real quick. Market potential. Yeah, so you have the TAM, the SAM, and the SOM, which that's why I was like, this guy's definitely getting advice because that is never I've first time entrepreneurs I never see that. So you're definitely ahead of that. So talk to me just briefly on the market size opportunity for this product and mental health space in general.
sure, yeah. So basically, like the space has, I mean, so basically the TAM, so the TAM basically we're aiming, it's quite a large market, I will say. It's scaled at least billions of dollars. It's scaled at least, I think, 375 billion
That's
was
right. Mm-hmm.
the fact out there. And
That's
but
right.
however, obviously that's the large scale market, and that's more of
Sure.
like the global mental health market that's out there. And this is including like really big companies that's out there providing, medication and within like big pharma, I think
Sure.
that's how you call them.
Yeah.
So like yeah,
That's
pretty
right.
much
Big
in that
pharma.
space.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So this is inclusive of them all, but I want to like go back to the SOM. So that is more the global AI, so the global mental health in AI. So the global AI mental health. Yeah, I just keep mixing them up. And so that is a lot less value at like 17.5% of the
Yep.
market share in the UK. And I think it's around 150 million, if I got that right.
100.
Maybe
Yep.
one.
159. There you go. Yep. Right there with it.
It was 159. I was just telling myself as well. It's 159, but I said 150 anyway.
You're good, man.
Yeah, yeah. So that is what we're aiming for. That's the UK's share, pretty much,
Okay.
from the research that I've done. I would say there's quite a bit of information out there in regards to this topic, but this is mainly the information that is out there and sort of like published, most recent facts.
Sure.
And just talking about like the market size, like it isn't like it's growing. There's like a compound annual growth rate of at least it was I think 22.7%
Okay.
of that growth rate that I discovered on the research article that I read. And what it is it's very much a growing field, I would say. Yes, the whole market share, the SAM is less than like a billion currently,
Yeah.
but that's obviously in 2022. But that's I think to me is a really good thing because it isn't an overpopulated and oversaturated market, but like the compound annual growth rate is showing good growth. So it
Mm-hmm.
isn't like slow or isn't like overgrowing too fast. It's showing good growth.
Right.
So at least I think they said it could scale to at least 30 billion in 2036, yeah, something around then.
Sure.
And I'm just remembering stuff from the back of my head. And yeah, so it was going to scale to that size of a market. And this is only just like the global AI in mental health space. And then
Yeah.
targeting forth from there will be the TAM. So that will be like the $1 billion market out there that's pretty well established. And the reason to why, as I pretty much previously said with the competition, because I feel whilst there's like so much innovation to occur, we haven't reached out to enough people out there, to be honest. And so what I'm planning to do with early model one was I'm planning to make that free of use.
Okay.
So pretty much people can just come use it when they need to sign in, pretty much,
Yeah.
and use it when they need to. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to get as much people as we can to try use and give their
Yeah.
feedback and give what they think about it. And
Well, I'm
so
I'm
I
gonna tell you
thought,
I'm gonna tell you this too, and I get excited because this is what I get really excited about is distribution because I think the main thing first time entrepreneurs did, and I did it as well. Like when I started my first business, I was obsessed with the product, and product is huge. Of course, you have to have a great product, but this is a company I like to use: Liquid Death Water. Are you familiar with the company Liquid Death? Um,
yeah,
yeah, so that company sells water. That is it. I mean, there's nothing special about the water. It's not different. That company does well because of fantastic distribution. And I even like to say distribution over marketing because marketing is such a buzzword. I feel like, oh, you gotta have good marketing. What does that mean? I like the word distribution because you distribute, get the product in the hands of your users. How do you do that? And I think that's a great that you're already saying. Make it free, make it really accessible to share. Because if you can prove that there's a user base, you can raise money and the money will come. What most people struggle with early is they'll struggle super majorly with just getting that demand, and they'll build this product and no one even wants it. You know what I mean? Like no one even wants that product. So
exactly. And so like I completely agree with what you're saying because like even though I talk a lot about the product, I really like have a lot more knowledge in practically distribution. And sort of
yeah,
that's my specialty in how to get this out there, like a go-to-market strategy. That is sort of my tactic.
well,
And that is sort
awesome.
of where I'm more specialized in. And so that's why, so basically, when I actually started this idea, I was planning to price it, but then I sort of this actually was inspired by like a fellow advisor, hence why he said advisors is so important. They said, why don't you try the freemium model? Because they said that this is going to be your best opportunity then pricing it so early stage because people don't like to pay for stuff, to be honest. Who doesn't like free things that give
Yeah,
value? And
that's right.
so he said, and then I remember him saying, he said, like, this is you should make it free because like when you make it free, then you can attract so many
That's
people
right.
and so many people across the world. There's no
Yeah,
limitation that who you can attract to. And with that, you can then turn them into sort of like a PR campaign, pretty
yeah,
much. So
that's right.
you can
Well,
just be like,
that's what OpenAI did. I mean, they were completely free. No, because the hardest thing to do and the most thing that excites investors the most is like they'll see a company and it has tons of users, but it's free, and the founders don't really understand business well. That is the prime opportunity to come in and buy for acquisitions. Because what would be the ideal customer for this in the early stages right now?
sure, absolutely. So I pretty much had the whole ICP written down. It was like a whole document, but then like, yeah, I will just simplify it down to people who are like age 25 to 40 currently, maybe facing daily stress and maybe work stress or, work life pressure, to be honest, from their daily problems that they may be having.
Right.
And I will say mainly if you're in a high stress job, potentially this will be a very good use case for you, or if like an early stage founder like myself, or very
Right.
high pressurized,
Absolutely.
or
Very stressful, huh? Very stressful.
exactly, exactly. And so if you're like in a very highly stressed situation, and I would say age wouldn't be the biggest sort of factor here because since the product is mainly free and there's no like price factor, I mean, if you can access a computer and your Wi-Fi, you pretty much have access to the system.
Yeah.
So I would say just the main two defining factors for the ICP will be, if you're working in a high stress position or if you're feeling like, you need to talk to someone in terms of anxiety and what you're feeling through, this is definitely the system and technology out there to go to that's free to use completely. And I would say, yeah, pretty much. And if you're obviously open to like, technology, if you're
Yeah.
obviously open to exploring tech solutions, and if you're sort of, in the understanding of, you're open to a technology solution and not always, human-based solutions.
Yeah.
Whilst I'm not saying based
That
solutions is bad, I'm
right.
just saying that obviously in terms of the ICP, people have to be open
Yeah,
to
and that's
use technology.
the
Sorry
reason
about that.
the reason why the IC the ideal customer profile is so important is because when you go to when you go to market, when you have that distribution strategy, you have limited funds. I mean, you know what I mean? You're not unlimited, especially even if you raise. I mean, you have limited access to capital. So we need to go all in on the ideal customer that we think is going to convert. And I think that's super big of what you said. Let's reiterate that. You went back to, it's going to be important for people to also be familiar with web applications and open to technology. And I think that's super important because there's another business I've reviewed previously where their strategy was very local hyper localization. That should have been their strategy, where they start in a local market, billboards, like the traditional marketing way. That would have been the best strategy for them. But for this company, it almost seems like, yeah, you need to have people that are searching on the web, that are familiar with AI technology already, and that needs to be your, and that are in the healthcare AI space already even using maybe trying to think like telehealth, basically, where it's like this digital health. Those are the people I think would be fantastic first targets. Obviously, one day we could get to everybody, but really focusing on that market, and that's how, where do those people go and where can I market to get to those direct people? And like you said, Google's a great way. And just working with a marketing firm to be like, how can we get to these people, you know?
Exactly. I would also say that you don't have to be experienced in using technology. Like, as long as you know how to sign in pretty much to a
Yeah,
website, and you just have to literally just communicate. You just have to say, hey, model, if you want to name it another way, but obviously we're still trying to decide on that. But if you
sure.
just hypothetically say, hey, model, I'm feeling a bit distressed today. How are you today?
Yeah,
You can just start a conversation with it, and it's pretty much that easy. Like, we just don't want to make it complicated, like a
yeah,
lot of like some bit of a competition out there. Like, we just want to make it simple. You just open up, you have a talk, and that's literally
that's
all it is. And so you don't have to have like a huge understanding of AI and technology or whatever. If you just want someone to speak to, you pretty much
sure.
come to this system. And in terms of like targeting specifically, I would say, oh yeah, this is actually very, very important that I did not mention is the language barrier. I would say we'll start off with English mainly. It's like sort of like English speaking
Sure.
people mainly sort of their strengths in terms of like speaking fluent English. Because obviously, we're not going to adapt the system yet. Many,
Right.
many different languages
Of
out there.
course.
But
Of
that's
course.
something I want to get across in terms of the ICP. So like if we were targeting, so like English fluent, I will say that's definitely a very big positive
Yep.
until we can then scale to like adapting languages and so forth and thereon. And yeah, pretty much that's mainly what I have to say.
Okay. Good deal. All right, let's go to revenue model. Okay, so we talked about, again, this is a different type of product because typically there is a revenue model where it's like, what typically with SaaS companies you have a three-tier revenue model: silver, gold, platinum, or a variety of different things. I think with you, you're saying what your plan is to make it free right now, and then once we've established what people actually want because we're so early, then release that, $6 a month, or that's, but your the plan to make revenue is a reoccurring subscription though, correct? Is that
Yes, yeah. So actually, yes. So in terms of like the business model shown on the deck, that's mainly for the e-balls. That's the physical device.
okay?
And that is a little bit more complex, I would say, but like
Yeah, it.
it's in terms of
Mhm.
like it's a little bit more structured and broken down.
Sure.
For the web application, I will say the revenue model is obviously with the freemium and then seeing people who convert to the paid version. But
Uh-huh.
also, it's pretty much very relative to the eBalls business model because we'll be then forming partnerships with people in the space
Okay.
and forming those relationships with clinics and private therapists and in terms of like motivational speakers as well, because we can obviously get them on board and we can have them, let's say, deliver, let's say, live seminars and share their knowledge as well for like a huge PR opportunity. And
Yeah.
in return, they can like share our product with their clients pretty much. And so growth from there with the partnerships. And I will also say, yeah, pretty much. So if I was to describe it, it will be like a hybrid model, but it will be mainly based in terms of like B2C
Yeah.
first to begin with.
Well,
So like
er,
practically two.
early
Sorry, yeah.
on, the reason why I was going there is because, yeah, once you get the hardware, there's going to be that initial sale that you're going to make from the hardware sale, and then there's going to be the post, I'm guessing, subscription. That I understand. I'm just saying, like right now, early, your plan is to do the free and then a subscription based on what we described earlier, and that's kind of the main going to be revenue source once we get this thing going. Correct?
Yeah, yeah. But
Okay.
also, I would like to add on that the partnerships will be coming even with the free model. So this
Mm-hmm.
will be collaboration opportunities with, well, you can say affiliate marketing in a
Yeah.
sense. So like building those affiliate relationships with people in the space
Okay.
and people who can like, yeah, just promote the product really. And so, yeah, pretty
What
much
would
I'll
be
say,
in that
yeah.
scenario? What would be their benefit? Would they like get a, I'm guessing, percentage of revenue? Is that how you would structure that affiliate structure? Or
Yeah, I was thinking percentage of revenue,
okay,
but I would mainly say that we're targeting like, influencers that have clients, but also want to grow in terms of social, like going, like sort of growing in terms of who, like how many people know about them. So like they're practicing social presence out there.
sure,
And that to me, that huge like PR boost that we can deliver with a certain set amount of people using our product,
mm-hmm.
and so then we can convert them into that live paying seminar, the £6 a month, paid trial.
Sure,
And those people will be paying to see these, like, well, I don't want to say, I was going to say celebrities, but like, what I mean is like affiliates and, motivational speakers, therapists, clinicians coming
yeah,
through, and then they can potentially get more clients towards them and more, more appointments and more profit towards their business, whilst we can obviously potentially benefit from the side of then showing them the product
I
and
got
then
you.
showing, hey, what about your clients as well? Would they be interested in using this? So growing them whilst they're helping us
I
grow
got you. So
as well.
the £6 a month would be not only the actual application, but also access to these seminars with these influencers, and the influence benefit because when all these viewers view the webinars, live whatever, then there's tons of value there because then they can. I'm sure you're going to feature them in their social media and all that stuff, and that's you're saying going to be the benefit for both parties. It's kind of
Pre- Pretty much, yeah,
okay,
because obviously the standard application is free to use,
right,
but
right,
then once you convert to the paid version, you have the customization options to the standard application,
okay,
and also the live seminars, the ebooks as well. If they
yeah,
release ebooks, we could definitely publish it, not like in that sense, so like just promote it. And if they have any other forms of like, knowledge providing sessions, we can obviously have host those type of things with them.
yeah,
And one thing we were also thinking was sort of live conferences. That will be a very big thing if people are local around where we are. We
sure,
can like host conferences once we obviously scale.
uh huh.
Then pretty much, yeah, there'll be like a huge boost to their career and a huge boost to like,
Yeah, I see
yeah,
that
so
the hardest part early is going to be establishing like a lot of users on that paid because like those first couple sessions you're really going to have to get them on board with. Hey, we are going to be growing. Just just hang in there with us, and you're probably going to have to get low tier. But then as you grow, then you can go those top tier influencers. Say, hey, listen, we have 10,000 people right now actively ready to listen to you. Then that changes the game. Then you can get whoever you want basically.
yeah, I would say like early on, what I do to build those relationships is that I say, would you be happy to test out the product when it launches? And I make them give advice and their validation into the technology. So they know they're making a change
Yeah,
to the
that's good.
system and they're practically almost getting themselves out there 24/7. And so that's what I say to them. I'm like, hey, how about you having yourself 24/7 with a potential client that you just helped or diagnosed? And imagine you being there with them 24/7 when you can't be there.
Yeah.
And think of the benefit that that person gets for their life. And so they're pretty much like, oh, this is a very interesting, direction that you're taking with this. So I sort of like build that relationship early on. And then I'm like, okay, so once we scale, we can pretty much get you free PR boost once we get like enough people using the product. And obviously what we want in return is just simply, if people are interested from your end to use our technology, you can obviously test out the product, make sure it's safe, whatever, so forth. And then you can just share it to people you know.
I like that. Yeah, I think early it's really going to be about establishing those relationships. As you grow and you get a lot higher profiles, a lot of those guys won't speak unless they get like some kind of speaker fee. But at that point, if you have 10,000 users, you'll be able to afford some of those things. Um, Again, I like to be devil's advocate here and pick it apart, see where your head's at. I like it, man. I think the distribution strategy is good. It's going to be hard, early getting in touch with those people, getting access to those influencers. But once you do, and you figure out that way to consistently talk to them, it's going to be really good for you. And I think that's, like you said, you're building a product that's helpful, and I really like that
Yeah,
mindset.
and I actually agree. So like it's kind of a bit hard to get them,
It's
to be
very hard.
honest. They have speaker fees, they have,
Yeah,
priorities, they work with other people that's more established. And so what I do is I follow like this 90-10 rule that I made myself, is I
okay,
do 90% of the work for them. So I help them in any way, shape, or form I can.
yeah,
And what I do is I build an honest relationship on the point, on a topic that we're both relative on. So this topic, for example, that we're talking about, we're both passionate about it,
sure,
and we build a relationship. And then from there on, I see how can I help them with maybe introduction to a net connection that I may have, or
yeah,
maybe they're trying to start off a venture that they have, and I'm just like, hey, I know a guy who can help you out. Join this, join that, and I'll
yeah.
give you a warm intro, pretty much.
Uh,
And then
that's
what they,
that's huge.
yeah,
That is huge. Go
and
ahead.
so
Sorry.
pretty much what they do is they're like, oh, hey, thanks for the connection. I like that. How can I help you? And so from there on, I just literally take the conversation away.
That's good. Yeah. If you, well, as you're building that network, that's super big. Kind of providing that value. How can I provide value to them first? Because if, but I'll say this too. We're about to get there to the actual investment with money allocation. Part of that pre-seed funding could go towards that. Go towards if you can't introduce and there's some people you really want to feature, you think that's going to help. That could be part of kind of your marketing, just part of the expense in the actual investment round. So just something to think about. Let's go to number 8. We're almost we got a couple more points. Number 8, we got evidence of success. So this will be a slide in your deck. You probably don't have this now, but once you actually if the model's released or if you get people to test it early, having some kind of reviews or anything, man, anything like 10 people are using the product, that's still better than none. You know what I mean? And we had this one guy come on and he had, 25 people. He's like, it's not many. I said, dude, 25 people that signed up, that's awesome. That are like, and then like 8 were actively using it. If you can just get some kind of reviews or feedback or even advice from experts that they're comfortable you quoting them, that could be a fantastic slide to even your advisors. I mean, that are on your board, that are licensed to give that feedback of what they think of the product, of what it could be. I think that would be a great slide to feature for an investor potentially.
Yeah. The thing is, I have a wait list, and there are people signed up on it. I just didn't know whether to include it. There's
Oh,
currently like 10,
yes,
11 people on the
yes,
wait list,
include it,
but
include it.
include it. Yeah, gotcha.
Yes,
But the thing is, I can get way more people on that wait list once I launch the product. I can literally just reach out to warm connections, because like one thing I do on LinkedIn is that I kind of hate like having so many connections, because
yeah,
the thing is they're not a working network. They're just like people like, oh hey, I stumbled across your profile, let's connect.
right,
And
right.
we don't really we don't really have a connection. And so like, I want to build like a working network. How can I help you? And in return, maybe you can help me with what
Yeah,
you know. And
yeah,
so I can obviously reach out to a lot more people within my network to sign up. It's just that
right.
I haven't yet done that because of like obviously not having the product in my hand.
Yeah.
So that would just be like a little bit difficult. But currently there's like 10 people on the wait list, and this is from motivational speakers to like actual professional clinicians.
Well, even 10 though, because what it again, I think this product is going to be something. Like I said, it's a very going to be a long journey for you, and it's going to be something where again, the biggest thing we're just going to skip ahead real quick. The biggest thing I think in terms of when you raise money is 80% of the 75% of the funds need to be used towards distribution. 25% needs to be used to the actual product. And if you go where your numbers are off on that, then you need to actually raise more. Because if you can't get this product in the hands of these people, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Nothing matters if we can't get to the hands of these people. So that's why I'm just some asking these questions about some of these things. So let's move on. Let's move on to the next one. So forecasting. So forecasting is a slide I think is important where you're kind of estimating once we get these things rolling. And I'll kind of give you what I'll do after this too is I'll send you an example deck. Actually, it was one guy that made it recently based on some of these points we went through. His deck's really good, but if you forecast, it gives investors like in 3 years, if everything like happens like it's supposed to, what could be my potential return on investment? And so what I like to do is, what I did when I raised was I would do, all right, we estimate in 1 year we're going to have 200 subscriptions, and based on those 200 subscriptions at $6 a piece, this is going to be X amount of dollars per month. And you kind of give a 3-year roadmap to what your revenue is actually going to be doing. And if you can give some kind of realistic expectations, then you can actually prove why you're raising what you're raising. Because a lot of investors will go into, well, I'm raising $1 million at 10%. Well, why? Where do you go in the shark? They go in the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Why? Like,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? But pre-revenue, it's a real big struggle because you don't have EBITDA to currently look at in your portfolio. So what you have to do is say, this is what we expect. This is what we're going to be at per month, and this is why in 3 years we're going to be doing $10 million a year, and that's why I can give you the evaluation of this. Because in pre-revenue, we're guessing, but we want to give investors the best educated guess in our plan. Our plan.
Yeah, I agree. So like one thing, so I had a previous pitch deck to this, and
Okay.
in that I had a whole forecast on there. But the thing was, I didn't want to include it in this one because I felt it was a bit like sort of almost like made up, if that makes sense. Even
It
though it's
is.
realistic,
It is made
even
up.
though yeah, that's the thing. Even though it's realistic, like I felt it was a little bit made up, and I felt like people would just connect with that sort of thing. But I mean, right now I can sort of make a forecast because like I
Well,
have
again,
sort of
you don't have to. I'm a guy on the internet. You don't have to take any of my advice. Like I've just found that when I sat through a meeting, like, well, what's the market potential on this? What can I make? Because I felt the same way. I felt kind of gross, because I'm like, I'm kind of pulling this number out of nowhere and just throwing it out. But if you can go, this is what we estimate, and be conservative, give very conservative estimates, and just be honest with your investor. This is an estimate I think is realistic if we hit our achievements. I think they'll feel better about it. And I know it. I know it's hard. I know it's hard. But if you can give maybe something that's very conservative, saying in 3 years this could be our conservative estimate based on this, I think they'll really appreciate too. Just you being honest about this isn't 100%, but this is what I feel like we potentially could do. I don't know, something thrown out there.
gotcha. No, no, I agree with that. I like that perspective. I like that
Yeah,
thinking.
because they're gonna look at this, and the first thing they'll love you because I can tell with your passion, energy. I'm an investor. This kid's got it. Like he's excited, but at the same time, they're gonna be like, well, what's this company actually gonna make? He's saying we're gonna list $6, but how many users does he think he's actually gonna do? Well, they're gonna ask you that in these meetings, and so I would rather you just go ahead and have a slide prepared saying this is because if I was an investor, those are questions I would ask. That's great, but what are you estimating? So you want to have all that ready. So if they do ask, then you go back to it. But if you feel morally weird about it, just preface with, hey, this is something that I feel is important to include because I want you to know what I estimate this company to do. This is my conservative estimates, and I'm just being transparent. If you preface with that, I think it'll be a lot easier conversation than this is exactly what we're doing, and your estimates are like 50 million a year. You know what I mean? There's a way to do it.
Yeah.
There's definitely a way to do it. All right, so we'll do that, and then finally the roadmap. So let me see if we have a. Well, there's actually a couple more, but roadmaps next. Do you have a roadmap, kind of what you're looking at the next? Usually 3 years, I think, is a good roadmap. Let's see.
Yeah. In terms of roadmap, like I don't have a proper roadmap yet.
Sure.
I would say like I would say the financial projections is more of my roadmap in
Okay.
the essence. I haven't really made a roadmap.
No, that's fine. No,
I
that's
sort of
fine.
made one with the hardware version, the
Yeah.
Evo, but that is a little bit more like, probably some few years down the
Right.
line from Model 1. Yeah, pretty much. I haven't really come up with a plan like that.
No, you're good. No, like I said, that's why I think this good. We're having this. What I like, I love roadmap is one of my favorite things because it says, all right, in 3 months, we're estimating we're hitting this amount of users. In 6 months, we're releasing the app. This is our plan, and you have guidelines to follow. Even I would even, and I'll send you this after, but even include like in 1 year from now, we understand that the money you give us is going to be about out of money. So we're planning on doing a Series A round January of 2025. By showing this to your investor, they know that you're planning your financial forecast because sometimes you can have a fantastic idea, you can have everything lined up, and you don't raise enough money, or you don't plan and you don't raise it another one in time. They want to know, okay, I'm making sure that this company, I'm going to get your return back on investment because at the end of the day, they just want to know that the company is going to survive because they know the more it survives, the better chance of success. So if you even have those on a roadmap saying, we understand this is when we plan the app to drop, this is when we plan the, sorry, app, you're doing mobile application, but this is when we plan the mobile application. This is how long we expect development. By 2025, we'll do Series A, and then December of 2026, we'll do our Series B. If you have that, they're gonna be like, dang, this guy really is planning financially for the company, even if they're not hitting their goals. Because in those roadmap, you still want to plan if you don't, maybe you get 50% of that revenue, that your company can still survive and that your overhead isn't surpassing the money you've raised. So I'll again send you what very clean, very simple, but as an investor, I feel like 3 year roadmap is a very good kind of thing, and you could have 8 different points, January of 2025, June of 2025, and then just continue it. Does that kind of make
Gotcha.
sense?
Yeah, gotcha. No, no, I agree with that. I like that thing too. Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, honestly, like it's just like mainly. I mean, I can make the roadmaps. That's not the problem. It's just
Yeah,
that it's just that like the quote that I heard. Don't sort of no, don't overdo. No, don't
yeah,
overestimate. Always underestimate and then overachieve in that
absolutely.
sense. So like, but the thing is like, you know, I'm sort of like in that sort of gray area of like,
I know.
okay, am I estimating too much or am I underestimating? And
Yeah.
like, which one is it?
Well, again, you got a good heart, but you got to remember this: like you're selling the dream and you're selling the future to these investors. And as much as they might like you, if they don't think you got a solid plan, that at the end of the day, and it stinks because they can buy into your vision, but they might not invest with you if there's not a solid forecast, there's not a solid business plan. They think that you're not planning financially, they're not going to invest. So you need to have what you have, which is the passion, the energy. Your personality is great. You also need to say, I'm a business guy. This is how you're going to make your money back. This is when we plan to make your money back. And this is the roadmap to do it. And as investors sit through that, to go, this kid's got it all. He's got the vision, he's got the drive, and he has the financial intelligence to back him on his advisors. He has the roadmap. He has the invest allocations prepared. And I just think having all this, you're going to crush it. Because this is the thing, most people, you'll see founders, they'll sit through 100 investor meetings, before they get funded. I think that the reason why they sit through 100 is because they didn't do their homework before, and target the right investors. And so what I want to do for you is make sure I'm giving you the best possible deck. So when you go into those meetings, your chances of closing on them are a lot higher. And we do that with two ways. We target the right investors, and we have the right plan and pitch deck. And
Gotcha,
that's what we're building, I think, for us.
gotcha.
Yeah,
That's a huge thing. Gotcha.
yeah, yeah. And it's hard because it's like I said, it goes back to you feel weird about it, but you have to be like confident in saying this is what I believe we're gonna do, and be conservative. Still be you. I'm not trying to say don't be you. Be you, man. Just be conservative. All right, let's go
Gotcha.
to the actual marketing plan. So this is the fun part. I love the marketing plan and the investment with money allocation. How and I you got a slide for this, but talk to me. How are we marketing this? How are we getting it in the hands of our users? How are we distributing it? What's your plan?
Sure, absolutely. So basically, with early model one, the main marketing strategy I use is direct marketing currently.
Okay.
So basically, I go to like events where my target audience turns up, and I pretty much say, "Hey, I'm doing working on this. Would you be interested to test it out?" And some people say, yeah, definitely, count me in. Some people say, oh, maybe not now. When you have something, always hit me up.
Yeah.
And I haven't really got a no, to be honest. Like some have said, like, yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of this. Because obviously that's the trust and safety that I was like literally mentioning the whole time. Yeah, that's just the only thing that pretty much they only say no for. But what I do is a lot of direct marketing. So I just go out, I speak about the idea, get feedback, and sort of validate it. Another thing I do is um, what is it? Very much sort of like organic marketing as well. So this is on social media like LinkedIn, etc., etc. I just like, give articles of value. So I write up a whole blog page and I pretty much post it on my LinkedIn, on my company page. And what I do, well, it's just like giving value to people. And I would say it's more like growing the page more than like sort of closing on potential customers and so forth. It's just like getting the attention out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do direct marketing, organic marketing, and I try to build my network and try leverage on that
Sure.
in that perspective.
I,
And also, yeah, I'd say that's the three main strategies I use, but also partnerships. I think that's sort of a more effective one that I have
I,
had.
I like.
And
Yeah. I,
yeah,
I like partnerships.
and
Go ahead. Sorry.
oh yeah, sorry, yeah. And the final one is just like cold email and sort of like me just like basically I just go on databases and I find people in my space. And I pretty much just outreach and just get some cold email, well, warm email because I
Yeah.
pretty much research about them and I send personalized emails across. And so either they connect or they practically just don't respond, which is pretty understandable. It is like the industry of cold email.
Yeah.
So you don't
But
really get a huge turnover.
let
But yeah, pretty much. Sorry,
let
yeah,
let.
go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm trying to. What I mean by like that's good. That's what you're doing now. If I give you $250,000 today, I'll wire it to your bank account. Where's that going? That's kind of meaning by marketing. Like if I give you what you're asking, 250 pounds today, where are you using that right now?
Gotcha. Yeah. So basically, in terms of the 250,000, I have the infrastructure in place. So basically, what I mean by that is I am going to leverage a lot more social media marketing
Okay.
strategies because I feel that is where most of my target audience is on. So like Facebook and Instagram, that's like the
Okay.
two biggest places, the hotspots where they're at right now.
Okay.
More than like I would say TikTok is all right. It's just that TikTok is a little bit more for the younger side, and
Yeah.
that is sort of slipping out of my target audience that I'm thinking of. So definitely would probably run sort of campaigns in terms of
Okay.
social media
See that
and who I think.
that's what I'm getting at. I'm getting specific on if I get it today because this is what investors are going to do. They're going to look at this because we're going to break this down here in a minute. But like, look at this 40% marketing. That's a lot of. I mean, we're talking about almost what 120 $20,000, 110,000. Where are you putting that to use? Like, where's that going? So that's good. So getting a targeted Facebook campaign, Instagram. That's what we're thinking here for the raise.
Gotcha. Yeah. And also another strategy I have is sort of like place. So like one thing I like to do is place like sort of like understand global markets around the
Okay.
world. And I have the infrastructure right now. I sort of have a network of different individuals from the US markets, Indian markets, and sort of trying to like sneak into like China's markets as well. But like I have a bigger, stronger connection in Singaporean markets. And what I
Okay.
do is they're sort of like agents and they understand the markets better than me. And they advise me on like how people think over there, how people would come across a solution like this,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of the severity of the solution of what we're proposing and whether it's viable in their country. And so what I plan to do is what I'm going to do with the funds is when I'm running those campaigns, I'm going to target the countries that most need my solution and is most open to like testing out the solution in that sense. So
But
obviously there's some countries which
they would have to be English speaking though, right? Because
yeah,
that's yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Which is what I
Okay.
was just going to come back to. Like, they have to be English speaking
Yep.
currently, and yeah, mainly, and also just targeting different areas that, like, the people that who advise me say that yeah, this is definitely a very good area to target in the
Right.
specific country. More than this area is a bit weaker in the sense of there's more stigma or maybe whatever, or problems around it that's going to put a barrier and waste your money in terms of that promotion. And in terms of more marketing strategies, I'm also sort of like I'm obviously going to like ramp up the direct marketing even further
Sure.
in terms of like where I get to and who I speak to, because obviously with some events requires money to attend the events. gain access into there and then just
Sure.
start promoting. And I'm also obviously thinking more of running live seminars and live
Uh,
conferences.
See,
But this,
that's what I think. What I think, just again talking with you, I think leveraging if you got the money tomorrow, I think using that some of that money to do exactly what you were going to do, live webinars from licensed and really like influential people on social media could be huge because let's say their speaking fees, 500, $1,000, whatever. That's typically what they'll do. And you organize this massive campaign where you go out and get the best speakers on social media, and you get part of the speaking fee includes, hey, you get on this webinar, you join, me, and it's gonna be the biggest one of the summer or something crazy, and use that money to spend like $5,000 on a massive influencer campaign. I think that would be a fantastic use of the money, and you would get so much value for that because their whole audience that's in those spaces is now exposed to your company. If I were in your shoes, I got the money tomorrow. That's what I would do. I think that would be the best use of funds. Again, take it with a grain of salt, but just based on what you've told me about what you're trying to do, I think that could be huge.
yeah, I would say that's definitely a really good way. It's just that, okay, so initially starting, social media to me is the best way to go. Build an initial audience, and then when I'm going to do a live seminar, I can negotiate prices as well because I can say,
Sure.
hey, I've got an audience of 100,000 people pretty much actively following me and
Right.
actively engaging with me. Would you like this 100,000 people coming your way and,
Yeah.
influencing in your business as well,
That's
rather than having to spend 500K on someone like a celebrity influential speaker
sure.
who's worth billions and billions? You may as well renegotiate the price and say, right, I'm sending 100,000 people your way.
You have
You can make
leverage. Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly the art of leverage, something that I was telling myself,
Yeah.
from the very start. So I can say, hey, I'm sending 50,000 people your way. Each of them will spend, £70 on you.
Sure.
How much money are you going to make rather than me giving you 500,000 right now, you making
Yeah.
less, and you, let's say, paying up for, tax or whatever thing
Right.
comes up with it. You might as well leverage an online business with extra 50,000 people.
I think if I were you, I would include like specific because I would want to go like you could say put 120,000 or put let's say $50,000 into building the social campaigns. Use the other 50 to then use the social media influencers. Having a specific plan like that is super powerful because most people no idea what they're doing. Specifically like okay, I give you that money tomorrow. Where is it going? And for you, if you go, this is exactly where I'm putting the funds to use today when I have it. 3 months, we're going to build it to 50,000 using this money. This is why I think we can do this. Once we do that, we're going to put 50,000 more into this, and it's going to take us to the next level, dude. That is huge. That is huge because no one has that on their decks. You know what I mean? No one's doing that.
Yeah, gotcha. And also, I would say marketing technically on there is supposed to be like 70% because there's even business
Yeah,
development on there, and that's like technically has a bit of marketing in it in terms of business
I was gonna
development.
ask. I was gonna ask what the business operations really meant. I didn't really know what that meant.
So I would say just what I meant by that was scaling, to be honest. So obviously,
Okay,
once we have more uses and once we start to like open up more across the world, I would say
sure.
definitely having sort of like what I mentioned with like the agents and stuff like that in that perspective. So there'll be like sort of business managers of like,
Yeah,
our company across those different places in the world. And that's sort of one example of business development. And another perspective would probably be like, hiring, probably like, just bringing on board people and sort of like managers in that essence. Obviously, that would be my biggest concern right now. But like, it's obviously if like, there's a lot of users and like the
yeah,
technology needs people to
yeah.
come on board, like
I
obviously
would
then we probably,
Well, like I said, I would be very on the hiring stuff. I'll tell you this. There was a guy that my investor who invested in my company. He had done a manufacturing contracting company, had scaled it to tens of millions of dollars, sold it. The biggest piece of advice he gave me on that is don't hire until you absolutely have to. And if you have to get someone for a specific job, make them a 1099 contractor. Don't pay them as a W 2 because with a W 2, or I don't know exactly how it works in the UK, basically an employee, you have all these benefits. You have to go through this HR process. You have to give them insurance, and all this stuff. So, in those business operations, quickly you can lose a lot of money. So, I would recommend the contractors until you absolutely need this person, and then segue them to an employee. You know?
Yeah, I get what you mean because what I plan to do is I don't plan to like bring on people full time because to me
Right.
that's
That's
a
good.
huge waste of money right now. At least in the UK, an AI developer will cost you at least 70K.
Yeah. Right.
And that's literally pretty much like one quarter of the whole budget just gone for just
That's
one
right.
guy. And I don't even know how the guy will even perform, pretty much.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
what I will do is obviously I'll see if they're passionate, sort of renegotiate in terms of passion,
Uh
and I
huh.
will mostly let's say have them on like 2 to 3 months, and to see if they're doing pretty well in terms of like what they're offering and whether they're passionate and whether they're actually doing what they're asked to do.
Absolutely.
And from
Yeah.
there on, I will see if they're obviously happy to continue with us, and yeah, pretty much just sign them over in
Yeah.
that case. But that is only if they've pushed in that initial amount of effort. Otherwise, it's a no go for me. It's like, yeah,
Absolutely.
sorry.
Yeah. No, that's good. I'm just trying to what I want you to do is because I made a mistake. I made the mistake of let's get these people almost full time and your money drains so fast on your funds and contracting out to test if the person's even because a lot of times it's more than even what you're paying them. It's what's their heart. Like do they believe in this vision? And sometimes you just get people on that have great talent, but they don't believe in it and they're not going to go above and beyond. And especially in startup mode, you need guys 100% are going to go above and beyond. So the contractor thing is just huge. Like I said, you're on the right path. I just want to throw that out there as some advice that I wish I would have known, on that.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Understood.
yeah. All right, man. Well, next, I'm gonna throw one more thing at you, and again, this is something I thought of, and it could be a terrible idea. You might hate it. What do you think about like if you did if we you go the investor route, it doesn't. What about like a Kickstarter campaign for this product? Have you ever thought about that?
Honestly, you're like probably the 15th person who's told me about
Okay,
Kickstarter. I'm not
okay,
saying like in terms of any problem or anything like that. I mean, I've
yeah,
just heard it so many times.
yeah,
I have a GoFundMe campaign pretty much, but the
okay,
thing is, I had it for months, but it sort of fell flat on my face because there wasn't really anyone I could send it to that would be like, hey,
I got you.
donate me something or share it to someone. Because that was like a little bit of a problem we had. And the thing is, oh, and actually another thing is basically in the UK, they have this like startup scheme where it's called the SEIS scheme.
Okay,
So it's called the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. And what the problem with that is basically when you apply for that scheme and
hmm
when you incorporate your company and you sort of get accepted into it, you have to basically buy shares instead of actually sort of investing money
oh,
into the business. So you're not asking for like, oh, hey, I'm getting, I want to raise, 25K from Kickstarter.
yeah,
So that's
and
the problem with that. You
it's
can't.
not equity. It's literally just like people who want the product early and are willing to get those benefits and believe in you. There's no equity involved in Kickstarter, but you're saying there has to be in the
Yeah.
UK or something.
No, no. That's if you go through the SEIS
Oh, the
scheme.
S.
The
Okay,
reason why, yeah, so the reason why it's so good is because so basically whoever's within that scheme, if an investor comes on board and they want to let's say buy a £50,000 worth of your shares, sorry, like 250K worth
hmm
of your shares, they only have to pay 50% of the cost because they get a 50% tax relief pretty much on that investment that they make. So the 250K, if someone does make that investment. And also, if the business fails, they get 22% of the money back. So pretty much they're paying like 28% of 250K.
okay, yeah.
So
That's a program that's offered in the UK.
yeah, yeah.
Well, you need to
You,
go
you
through
can look
that.
it.
You need to
Yeah,
go
you can
through
look it
that.
up.
That's awesome. Is that like it's to encourage? I'm guessing the UK did that to encourage startup entrepreneurship. I'm guessing.
Yeah, the difference between the US and the UK is that the US is like, packed with innovation, Silicon Valley and,
Yeah.
pretty much, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids running around with ideas. But the thing with the UK is it's a lot different.
Hmm.
The innovation is actually taking sort of a steep curve down. So
Interesting.
there's not a lot of strong innovation. There is innovation, but it's
Yeah.
not as much as like the US. So the reason why, and also a lot of investors here in the UK are very sort of like not savvy. What's the other word? Sort of like very skeptical, I'd say,
Hmm.
to take on a very early stage venture and taking that risk. So that's why they introduced this scheme to get people like them to like, hey, here's my money now.
Yeah.
So obviously I get like 78%, 72% of my funds back when I
That's
invest in this business.
that's awesome from the investor side. That is awesome. How do you apply?
Exactly.
How do you apply for that program? Do you apply or
So you have to incorporate your company here in
you
the
have to
UK,
incorporate?
and then you have to sort of apply for the certificate, which you get. I think it gets like 4 to 6 weeks. I think
Okay.
that's the schedule around it. I'm trying to apply for that scheme right now. Like I have
Awesome.
legal counsel that's helping me out on it. And yeah, pretty much. I feel like that will be a huge, like, that will pivot a lot of investors from just saying no
Yeah.
because of random made up financial projections and whatever. And if they know they're getting 72% of their money back, they'll be like, okay, not too
Yeah.
bad.
How what? So that program's called the. Just so I'm keeping my record, the
SEIS.
SEIS. Okay, I'm gonna do research in that. So if we have another UK entrepreneur on, they'll take advantage of that because yeah, the US does not have anything like that, and that is super advantageous. So you're on the right track, man.
Yeah,
Super
definitely,
awesome.
definitely let people know, especially from the UK, because I
Yeah,
think maybe if you incorporate your company in the UK, I don't know if that's applicable. I think you might have to ask someone in legal to
sure.
see if that works. But yeah, definitely do spread the word if someone's from the UK. It's
Yeah,
very beneficial.
absolutely. That's great. I appreciate that.
But I
So,
think the rules is that the gross assets of the
uh-huh.
company have to be under 300,000, and the company must not be trading for longer than 2 years.
But see,
And
most startups fail in the first year. So I mean, that's
yeah,
yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
So
there's startups for like 2 years, anyways. With
there
like,
are, but
yeah,
typically it's if you're not seeing any traction by the year mark, you're not in a startup mode with a new idea. It's usually not a good sign. So, dude, I would. That's a great program. Definitely take advantage of that. So typically I do an ideal investor profile, but if you're going through that program, that might not be something we need to even talk about because an investor might not even because typically an investor like they can even be a mentor to you, which is what I kind of encountered, or they can be have really good experience in the field you're investing into. And again, at the end of the day, if there's only one choice on the table, they're willing to give you money, you want to do it, but you want to initially try to find an investor that aligns either with your mission they can give you that mentorship, they can give you that advisory role because they're investing into your company, but you also have to deal with this person, frequently, so you want it to be someone who is aligned kind of with what you're looking to do. But again, at the end of the day, we'll take what we can get, right? We'll take what we can get.
gotcha. Agreed completely.
All right. So one last thing, what is your next steps? Like, what is kind of you think the let's just say 3 month path, and how can I help you, if any?
Sure, yeah. Oh, honestly, I would say mainly the thing that I need help most is, I would say just getting like speeding up development.
Okay.
That's one thing I would say that I need help on. I will say the problem that I faced when I started was I didn't bootstrap this business. And yes, there is a lot of people out there that say, yeah, yeah, spend your money, spend your own money, spend your money on your business. I
Yeah.
get that. That is, if you have money in the first
That's
place to
right.
spend.
Yep.
And
That's
I
right.
literally, I'm like, I'm 7 months in. I don't really have a lot of money to
Yeah.
my name. I'm not affording an AI developer.
That's right.
I'm doing the best I can with people on like pro bono basis
Yeah.
and helping out. I would say the main thing is if at least I can secure the fact that I have an MVP developed,
Yep.
from there on, I can at least take it with investment and then promotion
Well,
and then getting people to work on it.
let me state this. I'm looking to raise money for my next venture as well. So I'm on the path with you, man. I'm in this with you, raising. And my software developer engineer was ready to go. I mean, he was ready to do it. Bootstrap it, not pay any money to do it. But I told him, I said, there's no point in you building a product that I cannot effectively distribute. Like, you can build the best product ever, but if I have no money to get it out to people, it doesn't matter. Are there companies that word of mouth takes off, the Facebooks of the world? Of course, but it's rare, and you have to expect that people aren't going to get your product rather than get it. So I would recommend to you, like, right now, because you don't have the money to pay, you're doing on pro bono, that all your efforts need to be going, how can I get my 250 pounds? and what do I need to do, because otherwise, even if you get some kind of basic product built, how are you going to get it out there? How are, you know what I mean? It's all this effort into hoping people adapt it just based on word of mouth, and it can, but you need money backing you, and you're young, man. You don't have any money set. You know what I mean? You're young. Like, it's not even your fault. Like, you just don't. You're young. So I would say all your efforts need to be into raising money. Like, that needs to be your focus. You know?
Yeah, I understand. Whilst I respect that, I will say just the problem is that like if you meet an investor, like from what I know and
Okay.
what I've researched, it's just that roadblock of like, what's your like not roadmap, sorry, what's your like traction, what's your progress you've made? And when
Right.
I
That's
say, hey,
right.
I I say, hey, I don't really have a working product yet, that sort of like impacts me a lot because at least if they can try it out, give their opinion and say, I liked it, and I didn't like it, and then maybe I can take a negotiations from there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have strategies. My other strategy was a heavy marketing campaign. So that's sort of like a little help that I also may need.
Yeah.
Because my goal, I listened to this guy and he said, why don't you grow your social media like Instagram and TikTok to, let's say, 100K likes every post you make?
Hmm.
That will attract investors. And if they're attracted from your social media and they see you converting 100K likes into a wait list, you can definitely get
Yes.
some money from them. And that is
Yes.
my strategy number two
Yeah.
that I have. So just converting through social media, like a heavy social media campaign. Only problem is once again money. I don't really
Yeah.
like have money
Well,
to get content creators and
yeah.
people, marketing
That's
specialists. Yeah,
that's the thing I have is MVP next on our agenda. MVP next steps. You already have that wait list, so what I've recommended is get the wait list as many people as you can free, and that you're right. You have to show something for the demand. That's where the wait list comes into play. And for the actual product, you can get Figma designs for like super cheap. You know, I'm talking about the Figma designs where you just click through the UI of the actual product. That's, in my opinion, that's how the most cost effective way to do it, where you say, all right, I have 100 people on the wait list, here's my Figma designs, here's my plan. Again, you're right, you probably, there are times where you need an actual prototype, but even just having clickable designs that the investor can see, I think those are huge. But again, man, I think you got a great head on your shoulders, super smart, and you're gonna figure it out. I'm just trying to give you some tools and resources to think about, you know what I mean, to think about.
gotcha. No, I understand. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
So anything else, man? It was great to meet you. Any shout out? How can they find you? We're gonna include it in the description. How can the users out there find you and do all that stuff? Give yourself a shout out.
Sure, yeah. I will say that the best way to reach me is through LinkedIn. You can look up my full name on there, and if you can't really find me on LinkedIn, it's very much my company page. Should I like share the sort of
Yeah.
the
Afterwards,
thing?
share all the links to me, and I'll include it in the description, and we'll get you set up on it. Okay.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, LinkedIn is the best way to reach out to me, and yeah, I do have company Instagram as well, but like it's not not the best thing out there.
Sure.
I would say mainly LinkedIn is the best place to reach out to me, and yeah, definitely excited to meet everyone who comes through. Would love to definitely make some connections.
Absolutely, man. Well, it was a blessing to meet you. I'll let you go. I know you got to go. I really appreciate your time, and I want to do a follow up maybe in a couple months if you're further along. Let's do a follow up call. Let's see, what happened, where you're at.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time and this opportunity. I really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure. You have a blessed day, man. Take care.
You too as well. Take care as well, buddy.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. We are now wrapping up the podcast. So, kind of my closing thoughts on it is he's a very young entrepreneur. He's 20 years old. He's from the UK. Again, he mentioned the UK doesn't have as much entrepreneurship and innovation as the US does, but I think that's even more of a testament to his character and like how much he's really trying to get his name and word out there. I would say that he has a ton of challenges. Having anything, a hardware product, having being in the space, he has a huge vision. That shouldn't discourage him. All it is to say is that he has a long path ahead and just needs to be prepared for it. But the kid's smart. He's really pleasant to talk to. You can tell he's got the it factor. He just needs to kind of get his plan, better together. Kind of the specifics, where that money's actually going, where he's actually using it could be a little revised. But overall, I think he's a really cool entrepreneur. I'm really glad to meet him, and I wish him the best of luck on his success. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you subscribe, obviously the content going on here. We're trying to build the channel up. And I just really appreciate everybody subscribing. So we're building Startup Central. We have a development team down below. We have a Discord, free public Discord. Check out our Discord. Check out our software development. If you have a company, you've been funded, you have the funds, reach out to us for development. We're building a really cool community in our Discord, and we're really building it just in general for free resources for entrepreneurs. And I'm really excited to get this thing going. So make sure you tune in next week, same time. We're going to have some really cool guests coming up the next couple weeks, and I appreciate everybody's time. I hope you have a great day.